just one of the best social deduction games that I've played so far. Let's take a look at how to play this game, and I'll share with you my thoughts afterwards. As with any social deduction game, the game splits players into the good and the bad team. The good team are known as the liberals, which can be identified by the human character cards, while the bad team are known as the fascists, which can be identified by the reptile cards. Under the fascist team, we also have Hitler. Only his card has the name Hitler on it. There are additional rules that apply to him, but I'll discuss this later in the video. The main objective of the game is to complete or enact all of the required policies for your team. 5 for liberals and 6 for fascists. The additional fascist policy does not necessarily mean that a fascist team is put at a disadvantage. First of all, there are more fascist policy tiles than the liberals, 11 to 6, and as more fascist cards are placed down, the precedent for that round will gain certain powers, such as looking at a player's party membership or killing a player of their choice. This means that sometimes the liberal would also want to place down fascist cards to gain those powers. What makes this game even more interesting is that both teams will have an alternate option of winning the game as well. The liberals can also win the game if they can identify and kill Hitler, which makes the execute power more attractive. And for the fascist team, they can also win the game if Hitler is elected as the Chancellor after 3 of the fascist policy tiles are placed on the board. These can be identified on the fascist track where the last 3 panels are in a darker red. Now for the setup of the game, start by placing down the liberal and fascist board in the middle. The fascist board should correspond to the number of players in the game. You can place down any liberal board because they are all the same. Then, shuffle all the policy tiles and place it on top of the draw pile card. Next, distribute the envelopes containing the liberals and the fascist cards according to the number of players, as followed on this table. The H under the fascist row represents Hitler. Each envelope should contain the row cards and the party membership cards, green for liberals and orange for fascists. The President and the Chancellor play cards should now both be randomly assigned to one player. So now once every player secretly looks and knows their identities, the round begins with a player narrating the directions for the fascists to identify each other. You can also download the companion app on the phone, where you can hear Will Wheaton himself narrating the instructions for you. A 5 to 6 players game will allow the fascist team to know one another, while a 7 to 10 players game will not allow Hitler to know his teammates. So now in the election phase, the President starts the round by nominating a Chancellor, which is basically like a second in command, by passing the play card to an eligible player. An eligible player is any player except the last elected President or Chancellor. Nominated President or Chancellor are still eligible. I know this is a bit of a mouthful, but essentially what it means is that the previous President or Chancellors are not able to be nominated as the Chancellor again. But note that if there are only 5 players in the game, the last President can still be nominated as the Chancellor. During this phase, players should watch out who the President nominates as the Chancellor, because as I mentioned before, if there are 3 fascist policy tiles that are on the board and Hitler is nominated as the Chancellor, fascists will instantly win the game. Now after the Chancellor is nominated by the President, all players, including the players that are nominated, will have to take a vote on the proposed government. To vote, all players will need to immediately place down their Ya on 9 cards at the same time. Ya to accept the proposed government, and 9 to reject it. The majority of the votes will determine if the proposed government succeeds or fails. If the vote is a tie, or 9 majority, the vote is rejected and the leader play card will move to the next player clockwise, and the round repeats. Failed votes will be tracked on the election tracker. If the votes failed 3 times in a row, the players will then need to enact the policy that's on the top of the policy deck. But any powers granted by this policy will be ignored. The election tracker will then be reset, and any players will now be eligible to be nominated as the Chancellor. If the vote succeeds, then the nominated President and the Chancellor will be the government for that round, and proceed on to the legislative session, which is just a fancy term for the actions that they both need to take next. Now in the legislative session, this is the round where the President and the Chancellor will enact the policies down. During this round, the President will select 3 policy tiles and secretly select 2 policy tiles to pass over to the Chancellor, discarding the last tile. The Chancellor will then select one of the 2 cards provided to enact and place face up onto the corresponding track, while discarding the other tile face down. During the passing of the tiles, the President and the Chancellor should not communicate in any way. They are only free to communicate after the Chancellor has placed down his tile to enact the policy. Here they can tell the truth or lie about their selection. You only need to be truthful during the endgame or when you're killed. The round now repeats till the winning conditions are met. If there are less than 3 policy tiles remaining, just simply shuffle them back from the discard pile. Now that we have learned how a round goes, let's look at some of the potential powers that a president can gain. So in Secret Hitler, there's 5 presidential powers: Investigate Loyalty, Call Special Election, Policy Pick, Execution, and Veto Power. The powers can only be used during that round once, and it cannot be carried over. The round doesn't proceed till the president uses the power. So the first power is Investigate Loyalty. The president can look at the chosen player's party membership. The chosen player will need to review his party membership card to the president. There's no need for the president to review this information, and this player can only be investigated twice. The next power is calling for a special election. The president with this power will be able to elect the president for the next round. For the policy pick power, the president will be able to look at the top 3 policy tiles and return them back in the same order. The execution power allows the president to eliminate any player from the game by saying, "I formally execute the player's name." This is the only time in the game where players must speak the truth. If the eliminated player is Hitler, it ends in the Liberals' victory. But if not, the player just says that he is not Hitler and the game continues. No one should find out whether he's from the Fascist team or the Liberals team. Executed players are removed from the game and may not speak. Okay, so the last one is veto power. So this power is a little bit complicated, so let's understand what the word veto means first. So a veto essentially means to reject a decision or a proposal. So when this power is unlocked, the government, which is the president and the chancellor, will have the ability to reject the 3 selected policy tiles if both of them agrees to do so. Let's take a look at an example and see what it looks like. A legislative session plays out as per normal, and the president will pass 2 of the policy tiles to the chancellor. Upon looking at the tiles, the chancellor may call for a veto. If the president agrees, all 3 of the cards will be discarded, and the president play card will move on to the next player. This will move up the election tracker by 1. But if the president denies the veto, the game will proceed as per normal, and the chancellor will still need to select one of the policy tiles to enact and place onto the board. Okay, so right off the bat, I want to talk about the cost of this game. So Secret Hitler requires 5 to 10 players to play this game, which means that you will usually bring this game during parties. But at a cost of $60, Secret Hitler is already 2 to 3 times more expensive than the usual party games that we have in the market right now. And due to the size of the game, Secret Hitler is also harder to carry around and bring around with you. But it kind of defeats the purpose because this game is supposed to be a party game and supposed to be brought around easily. But of course, when you look at the design of the game, you can see why the cost of the game is at a slight premium. I feel that the design of the board game is really well thought out and meticulous. If you look at the side of the boxes, these fakes are actually prints, and it's not that my copy of the game is old. In the interior, you can also see that the president and the chancellor play cards are made from real wood, giving you that sense of importance when you get those cards. The board and the policy tiles are also made from cardboard material, and also has this extra reflective foil that gives this premium feel. But if you find that the cost of this game is a bit too high, you can actually print and play this game for free, or you can even play this game online. I'll link them in the description box below. Now for the gameplay. If you have played Avalon or Werewolf before, you would see that there are some common elements in this game, and that's actually what the game designers are trying to achieve as well. They chose those elements from those 2 games and merged it together to create Secret Hitler. But the merging of these rules can be a good and bad thing. So this also depends if you've actually played social deduction games like this before. If you have, then this will be something interesting for you because of these new rules that you wouldn't have seen in the previous social deduction games. So now for newer social deduction players, it can be a bit difficult for them to identify who is part of the Fascist team until they become the president. So this is also because the Fascist team has a few advantages. So they have 11 policy tiles as compared to Liberals who only have 6, and it's only the Fascist policy track that grants powers to the president. So it's very easy for any player to say that they had no choice because they only had 2 policy tiles to choose from, or that they simply just want to use the presidential power on the Fascist track. That said, this game has a very easy learning curve, so new players can pick up this game fairly easily. As president, you simply need to select 2 policy tiles and pass one over to the chancellor, and the presidential powers are pretty self-explanatory as well. So Secret Hitler comes at a cost, but for good reasons as well. Personally, I wouldn't mind paying for this premium, because I believe that a good board game design will make it more immersive for all the players. Also, I really like the new President and Chancellor rule for this game. With these new rules, I like how players can now pinpoint a specific player that they are suspicious of. But of course, there are alternative options for playing this game. You can print this game for free, or even play it online. I also actually did a video for Avalon, which has a very similar gameplay for this, but the game is more affordable. So this is actually one of my last social deduction game that I have on this shelf. So in the next video, I'll look at the local board games that we have. So be sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell to be notified when I release my next video. So for now, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!